Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. This is Reservations. I'm Rain Whalen.
And I'm John Hinckley. No relation.
Holy shit. Oh my god. I can't wait to see what's going to happen by episode 20. Jesus.
He tried to kill. He tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan, by the way. Do your research. He was also obsessed with Jodie Foster.
Because of Taxi Driver. I've seen that American Dad episode also.
Oh, okay.
When he tries to he has to make Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Dude, that episode's good. Welcome back, everyone. So before we get into it, dude, we saw X yesterday.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ty West.
Absolutely.
That is the first movie of yours I've seen. And
interesting.
Now I will see more. I mean, from the first trailer, I was like, yeah, this is it. I'm seeing this movie.
I'm a big fan of Ty West.
And dude, it was dope.
House of the Devil, I think you'll really like. Innkeepers, of course.
Well, I do really want to see In the Valley of Violence.
In the Valley of Violence. I haven't seen that one yet. He's in Your Next. I don't know if you've seen that.
I've heard of it, but I also know he's also in Drinking Buddies with my spirit animal, Jake Johnson.
That's right.
Actually, probably both of our spirit animals.
Jake Johnson. Bit, yeah. I do love Jake Johnson very much.
But yeah, man, it was dope. And I learned something very interesting last night that I specifically waited till we were recording. In secret, he and Mia Goth filmed the prequel.
I read this today, and it's coming out this year.
Called Pearl, which is a prequel to the character that Mia Goth plays in the movie. Yeah. One of the two that she plays.
Fascinating, by the way.
I know, and I'm like, okay, where are you going to take this now?
I know, it's super interesting because, I kind of like his one-off stuff, so I'll be interested to see his...
Yeah, and as we were kind of talking about after we walked out of the movies, I was a little confused as to the motivations of Pearl and Howard. So it'll be interesting to see him maybe...
Yeah, man, X was super good. I forgot to look it up today because I was telling people, I think he shot it in 16 millimeter because it looks like a 70s...
movie
film. Yeah. It's got that, it's got the visual noise on the film, right?
And that's not a reference to the fact that the theater we saw it in had a loud, very audible,
eventually,
buzzing.
It turned off, but eventually.
Oh, dude, we thought that the audio was gone for the rest of the movie.
I know,
oh my God.
Yeah, you freaked out a little bit.
Dude, I was really wanting to see this movie. But yeah, it was dope. A24, please just let your directors keep doing whatever they want to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Never change. A24.
Never change.
But as a stark comparison, we are talking a movie that is completely different from X.
Yeah.
Today we are talking about the 2013 movie Her. As we said, as I told you off mic, very sarcastically and very genuinely, thank you for not telling me that this movie breaks your fucking heart. I feel
surprisingly,
yes.
Very touching and very sad.
I feel like if you would have told me that after I picked it, I feel like I would have gone into it with this sort of...
and I also appreciate you giving me, these props. I just flat out didn't remember. So I saw it when it came out in 2013, and that was the last time. So I just didn't remember.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Still.
It was kind of like I saw it for the first time. This movie. It had been so long. And
yeah, almost 10 years then.
Yeah. And I didn't remember a thing about it.
Yeah. So I had seen the trailer to the movie, so I knew a bit of an understanding of the movie, but actually watching it, dude, I've really fucking liked it.
Yeah.
Shout out to Spike Jonze when he can actually make a good movie. Looking at you, Where the Wild Things Are.
So a review I read today, and I'll be talking about the review. It's on my phone. I didn't write it down. I know.
What do I keep you around for?
I know. He said that Where the Wild Things Are is an underrated masterpiece.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Is what the guy said.
Okay, hang on. We're going to get to her. No, absolutely not. Okay, as many kids, fucked with Where the Wild Things Are.
Interesting choice of words. Go ahead.
Okay. I really, really loved Where the Wild Things Are. Okay. It's one of my favorite books growing up. For our anniversary, Ashley and I did this really cute thing where we went to Target and like grabbed things of our favorite color, things that reminded us of the other person. And the thing that reminded me of her is Where the Wild Things Are. And I bought her a copy. And so when I heard they were going to do a movie, I was like, yes. How though? It's that's exaggerating. Like a 30-page book. It is a very thin book. So how are you going to turn it into a movie?
Yeah.
And when I saw the first trailer, I was like, okay. The costumes look very intricate. Look exactly like the book. Let's go. Saw it and I was so disappointed. So disappointed.
Who is the kid? Do you remember?
No idea. Oh, okay. I've only seen it once.
So he didn't like grow up and become like Ezra Miller or something. Like, it wasn't.
Could you imagine?
Obviously, it wasn't Ezra Miller, but you.
I mean, it's like Shanghai Nights of having Aaron Taylor Johnson as tiny Charlie Chaplin.
I've never seen Shanghai Nights.
You've never seen Shanghai Nights? Yeah, no. It's revealed in the last 45 minutes of the movie that this little street urchin that they've been kind of like, who's been kind of helping them, is revealed to be Charlie Chaplin.
Oh, how fun!
Yeah, and then like there's a little part where he stows away because they're going back to America, and he wipes his, like he like does this, and a little mustache appears.
Oh my god!
Yeah, very on the nose.
Yeah, it's too on the nose. But I mean, spoilers for Shanghai Nights. Sorry, guys.
God, I know, for almost 20-year-old movie.
Yeah,
Jeez.
Sorry, dudes. Sorry. Well, Zach, he's the only one listening. Probably.
Okay, but anyway, her. I really loved it, man. I really, really loved it. Yeah. I especially, one of the things I really loved is this kind of take on the future.
Yeah.
Considering most of the things that they do, we have those things now.
Yeah.
Like voice assistants, for example, with the earpieces.
Yeah.
I do that. I'll put in my AirPods and I'll say, hey, hey Siri, play such and such music.
Careful.
Yeah, I know.
Careful. Did your Siri just go off?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I hope not.
Well, we'll see.
I mean, we're still recording, so.
Okay.
But, still, I do that. And, they have technically folding phones. And we have that now.
We'll get into it, but I love the aesthetic, the design
of the folding phone,
of that device that he has.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Anyway, go ahead.
But yeah, it's just so crazy for a movie that is now for us 8 years old, almost 10 years old, or 9 years. I can't do math.
You can't. Yeah.
Shut up.
Okay.
Sorry, I just got off of work. We're recording this in real time, and I'm a little irritable. But no, I really like that. Because Spike is showing us like, hey, this is happening in the near future, but it's not. People are flying on jetpacks and stuff like that.
It's not crazy.
And I think that's what grounds this so much. It seems like that's been the theme of this season is movies that are very grounded.
Not next week. So,
but
let this be the last one for a while.
So Jeremy.
Yeah.
Where would you like to begin?
I mean, let's start with the premise. The premise is so odd yet intriguing, right?
Yeah.
A man falls in love with an artificial intelligent operating system.
Yes.
That's the premise. So an oversimplification would be someone falls in love with
their
Alexa.
computer. Yeah.
Alexa. Or Siri, right?
Yeah.
The only difference in this one, it's more autonomous. It's more sentient. She is aware of herself and is aware of the world around her. So this isn't, it's not just voice commands that is coded to be responded to. This entity, this operating system, learns, grows, changes, right?
Yes. And we get a little clue of that when you're talking about like the voice assistants with his earpiece.
Yes.
And it has its automated responses. Checking emails and reads him his email. Delete. Goes to the next email.
Right.
Samantha, her name is Samantha, doesn't do that. No. She asks him, Would you like to read your emails? Oh, no, not right now. Are you sure? You got some? Like, do you just want to read them now?
It's having a intelligent conversation. It's
right.
It would pass the Turing test. You know?
Yeah.
Alan Turing. I forgot the actual questions, but and also Alan Turing said that if a computer can do something I didn't tell it to do, meaning I don't know how to write poetry. If I asked it to and it did, right? That is artificial intelligence. That is AI.
Right.
If I created it, I asked it to do something I cannot do and it does it, right? Which is, I'm simplifying it a bit, but that's pretty much...
You know, and I want to... And we'll get into it much later, because I do want to get into the fact that... of the implications of how the movie ends. Yeah. If you can kind of see where I may be going with that.
Perhaps.
The company that created the OS, you know... we'll get there.
So the...
Yeah, so...
So the premise. So, Theodore, Joaquin Phoenix.
Our boy Joaquin Phoenix.
He is sad.
Yeah, this is the most... Well, no, that's not true. I would say Joker is the most sad we've seen him. This is the most depressing we've seen him.
I think so. I mean, I love Theodore. I feel so bad for him, and
so do I.
He's struggling with his recent separation.
Yes.
Not quite a divorce yet.
Yeah.
By his what would later now be his fiance, Rooney Mara.
Charlotte?
Sure.
It starts with this. I think it's Charlotte.
I don't think that's right.
I literally just finished the movie.
That's true.
I could have not. I
don't know. That doesn't sound right to me. Hold on.
It's something with the C.
You talk.
I have. Oh, anyway.
It's Catherine.
Fuck.
So
Catherine.
Yeah. So, and of course, it took this time for me to realize Amy Adams is not his sister. I thought that she was the first time I saw it.
Yeah, they're just best friends.
Yeah.
Which I learned Spike Jonze really wanted it to be natural that Amy, which is funny because Amy plays Amy. Yeah. And Theodore would be very close friends, so he would lock Amy Adams and Joaquin Phoenix in a room together so they would get to know each other.
Like every other day.
And now they're like actually very close friends because of that. Because and we'll come back, but you can tell that Amy and Theodore are very close.
They are close. Close enough to where I thought they were brother and sister. And so,
I mean, you could see it. I mean, you could kind of see that they have that kind of brotherly, sisterly.
Which, of course, changes the ending for me, also.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Theodore is very sad, and it's almost personified in him asking his assistant, his whatever phone assistant, to play him melancholy music.
Oh, that made me laugh so hard. Like, play melancholy music.
And I'll tell you something that surprises me about this movie is how sexual the movie is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It focuses a lot on the sexuality of Theodore, and almost, focusing on that aspect of his relationships with either people on the phone. Yeah. Kristen Wiig, by the way, or and even Samantha later, right?
Oh yeah.
Which is interesting, right?
Yeah.
I like that Spike Jonze is willing to dive into that aspect of it, because I feel like a lesser movie wouldn't have gone as far. I feel like, because it's not only is it odd, but it's also kind of awkward, right? It's awkward until it isn't, right? Because it's awkward at first, because especially in the beginning when he's in almost a chat roulette style, that phone conversation, that's awkward, right? Especially when she brings up the dead cat and the choking and the whatever. Yeah. And
of course, people listening, Zach listening, is probably like, wait, what?
No, he saw the movie. So
you're just going to skip over a whole dead cat?
I'm going to skip over it. And, it's awkward to watch someone have phone sex. It's awkward.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it is.
It's awkward to watch. And it's sort of disconnected, right?
Uh-huh.
This intimacy that is completely void of human contact.
Well, especially seeing it one-sided, only seeing one side of it, because, in American Pie 2, Oz and Heather are trying to maintain a long-distance relationship by having phone sex, but we see both sides of it.
Right.
We're just seeing Theodore.
Yeah.
And we're just seeing his reactions and how he's responding to what he's hearing. And yeah, and a few times while I was watching, I was like, oh, this is I don't feel like I should be watching this.
But what Jonze is doing is he's setting up the idea of, yes, this is awkward, and yes, it's sort of depressing, this disconnect and this void of human contact. But with Samantha, it's different, right? Mm-hmm. With Samantha, there not being any physical human contact or human contact at all.
Right.
Right? Doesn't make a difference. Right?
Yeah.
And that's sort of the point I think that Spike Jonze is sort of trying to make, is that, like this idea of love sort of transcends this idea. And of course it also goes into, and we'll get to it in a minute, he writes letters for people. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He is doing something, and I wrote it down sort of as much as I could possibly. That factors into the plot as well, in the narrative, that in the thesis statement of the movie is there's a connection with him taking something so intimate and so personal, but doing it for someone else.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And as we find out, have been doing it for the same people for years.
Yeah, so it's almost like
that subscribe to this service.
Yeah, so it's almost like he's very in tune with this couple or with these people.
Right.
But his own kind of love life is a wreck.
Yeah. And, well, not only that, it's the connection of, someone out there is connecting with someone on a personal level, on an emotional and in love with someone, mm-hmm. right? And are in a relationship with that person, but are communicating to that person through someone else, right? Mm-hmm. Through a third party. And it's almost like that's sort of what Theodore's doing with Samantha. Samantha is not, it wasn't created in a vacuum. Someone created Samantha, right? And it's sort of, finding that love via a third party, right?
Right. Well, and he also kind of plays into what happens later in the movie, which we'll get to.
Right.
So, okay. So let's talk about Theodore.
Yeah, sure.
Because we've told the people that he's a big sad boy.
He is a big sad boy, yeah. I agree.
But my man also knows how to write dope-ass letters.
He really does.
And I love that that's our introduction to Theodore, is him writing a letter straight into camera. Yeah. Of course, we don't know that's what he's doing.
Right. Yeah.
So we're thinking, okay, who's he professing his love to? Is it us?
Yeah.
And then we get that wide shot of the page, and then he prints it out, and he's like, yeah. And he starts writing the next letter. And I love that that's such a great introduction of a character.
It's sort of I like this play of the future, right? Mm-hmm. It's sort of a futuristic service, right? Yeah. which I like,
It's sort of an analog / futuristic service.
Right.
This company that you can go to pay them to write you letters for...
Personal handwritten letters.
Yeah. For any type of event. Even though, like, they live in a world where people can communicate.
They didn't go into it very much, but I think how it works is, like, someone sends in a sample of their handwriting, mm-hmm. and they, like, upload it or whatever and match it, and they just need a writer, right?
Ghostwriter.
Right. And so that's what Theodore does for a living, and I think what's futuristic about it is it mimics your handwriting.
Yeah.
Is what it looked like to me.
Oh, yeah.
Which is cool. I mean, they don't need to go into that. It's not that important. But
yeah, but I mean, when he's flipping through the mock-up of his book,
all of the handwritings are different.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's why I thought that's probably how they do it.
Yeah, I mean...
It's not a real website, by the way, either. I looked today. Beautifulhandwrittenletters.com.
Oh, that's really what it's called?
Yeah.
I completely missed that.
Yeah, that's who he works for.
We should... I just want to mention it. That because I just found it so funny that Spike Jonze would include this little detail. Theodore has a fan base in Paul.
Yes.
Played by Chris Pratt. Who, as soon as I heard his voice, before I even saw his face, I was like, is that Chris Pratt? Is that Chris Pratt? Is that Chris Pratt? And this is, of course, before, it was 2013. That was before he'd done Guardians of the Galaxy.
But he's working on it because he's not as big.
He's not as yoked yet.
Well, that's not what I meant. I mean, he's not as fat, but he's working on it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, anyway. But so, yeah, as soon as I heard it, I was like, is that Chris Pratt? And Paul is just so enamored with Theodore.
And sweet.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, like, man, like, no one writes letters like you do.
Yeah.
And, of course, Theodore, being the humble, kind of being sort of humble, is like, they're just letters. Like,
right.
It's not a big deal.
There's, and we get a little bit of it with Paul.
Yeah.
And I love that they chose to go this direction, is when Theodore tells people about Samantha.
He gets...
And who she is and what she is. Nobody cares. Right?
The only person that cares...
is Catherine.
It's Catherine, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
Catherine, dude, that made me so happy.
I loved it because I didn't want to deal with having to watch people go, oh, that's what... And him having to go, no, it's not like... And the people was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because Paul... so later... in the movie, we're kind of not necessarily yada-yada, but we are kind of jumping around.
We're jumping around. We're going back.
Paul confides in Theodore at one point that he hopes to find someone who will love him as much as the letters that Theodore writes, the love in those letters. He hopes to find someone who can love him as deeply as that, and he does with Triana.
Sure.
And when when Theodore mentions Samantha. You know, he's like, oh, let's all go on a double date. And I felt it. I was like, oh, no.
Oh, no.
They're going to judge him when he says it's an OS.
Yeah.
And Theodore owns up to it. And he's like, well, she's an operating system. And I just love Paul. Cool. Like, we'll all go together. And I was like, oh. Like,
I know. It was shocking because, again, we're so used to this trope and this formula of, oh, that's weird. Like, what do you mean? Like, are you joking? Like,
because this is after Catherine kind of berates him about it, right?
I'm trying to remember.
I believe it is. Because yes, it is. Because this is when we meet Portia Doubleday's character, Isabel.
Yeah.
So this is right before that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Because then they go on vacation together, and Samantha and Theodore had reconciled their fight.
Yeah.
Anyway. But yeah, and I feel like that was so great of Spike to put into the movie because, again, after witnessing, Catherine's whole disgust really of he's quote unquote dating his computer.
Yeah.
We were all, I felt it was like, well, shit. Like, is everyone going to behave this way? Because the only other person he told who did freak out was Amy.
Yeah.
And it's because Amy is forming a bond with her AI that her ex-husband left. It's not a sexual bond, but more of a friendly, I just need a friend bond, but it's a very intimate bond still, you know. But anyway, yeah.
Right. So let's talk about Samantha.
Yes, okay. I love Scarlett Johansson. I think this is my favorite role.
Really?
I thought she nailed it without having a single shot of her face in the movie.
Granted, I will give you this. Yes, with the filmography you've seen from her, I would say yes, you are correct. However, for my audience out there, Zach, he hasn't seen Under the Skin yet.
Well, it's right there next to her.
I know. He hasn't seen Under the Skin yet. Once he sees Under the Skin, it's you're gonna trade up. You're gonna trade up. Because again, Scarlett Johansson's amazing. Of course, we know this.
Yes.
And I completely agree. Having Spike Jonze, okay, full disclosure, Samantha Morton, who played Hazel in Schenectady, New York.
Shout out to our last season of Schenectady.
Was originally Samantha. She was on set every single day. She was feeding lines to Joaquin Phoenix, off screen or off camera. Mm-hmm. And she did VO for it. However,
when they began editing it,
Spike Jonze just thought something was missing, and with her permission, with her blessing, he cast Scarlett Johansson, and she just did quick VO for everything. And it's almost impossible to think that how on earth did Scarlett and Joaquin have such great chemistry?
Yeah, it was...
Right? It's impossible to imagine that they didn't even meet each other until the premiere.
Yeah, as we were talking about off mic, I wanted to know if they met one another beforehand, and no, yeah, because you can find it on IMDb or just Googling it. The pictures of them meeting on the red carpet is so like, oh my God, like, hey.
It's so funny.
Like, it's so nice to finally, like, because I'm sure they knew what each other looked like, but they probably never had actually met.
Like, hey, we're in this movie together, you know?
Yeah. It's like, it was like when I first started this whole loving film, the first thing I ever really paid attention to is, don't laugh at me, the animated movie Open Season. Mm-hmm. Ashton Kutcher and Martin Lawrence didn't meet for 3 years because that's how long it took them to make that movie.
That's a long time. For that?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. That's funny.
But anyway, but yeah, you know, and it's just so crazy how these two people who weren't even like, you know, like you just said with Samantha Morrison, Scarlett wasn't on set every day. You know, they didn't meet until the red carpet.
I mean, yeah,
they have such amazing chemistry.
It's amazing. It's a testament to the editing, I suppose.
I guess it is.
And it's a testament to the editing and Jonze's direction. But,
mm-hmm.
You know, I think he made the right choice because, yes, I love Samantha Morton. I think she's phenomenal. I've seen her in lots of things. Of course, my favorite being Schenectady. But, you know, it's Scarlett's voice.
Yeah.
It's the depth of the voice and also the crack of her voice. Mm-hmm. It gives it this life and this vulnerability and this you know, this life. It gives it a personality.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone else could have pulled it off. Really, you know, seeing the movie now, it's like, well, no one. It had to have been Scarlett. Like, no one but Scarlett could have done this, and you know, and she crushes it, and I love it. You know, especially when their relationship starts going through trials and you know, and she's becoming upset and she's getting angry, and it's almost like you could visualize these two people in a room having this argument. And it's I mean, Joaquin definitely is amazing in the movie. I mean, he's really amazing in everything he has done. Sorry. Even Gladiator, you know, he was a great villain in Gladiator. But Scarlett, she just steals every scene, and she's not even technically in the scene.
Yeah.
And it's
amazing.
Yeah, it's so
truly amazing. Samantha is one of those characters. I mean, Samantha is a computer.
Yeah.
Or code. She's not even a computer. She's code written by whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's, again, you have to suspend a little disbelief because we're going into, this is what makes it sci-fi, this idea of this autonomous sentient computer program, right?
Yeah.
And so once you let that go, you know, and you think of it, and of course it goes into this idea of if like a computer program or a robot can get to that place, what's the difference, right?
Right.
And it gets into that philosophical debate where, you know, is that strange or not?
Yeah.
Is that object sexuality or objectophilia, which is being in love with an inanimate object?
Yeah, which so shout out to Smosh. They have a series of videos they used to do called If Movies Were Real, and Her was on the list. And the joke that they did is literally just someone humping a computer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Shout out? Is that what you want to go with?
Shout out.
Sure.
Hey, you were watching a 2-hour-long compilation of They're Trying Not to Laugh.
I do like that a lot.
Okay, here, let me rephrase. Points to Smosh for making that joke. Shout out to Shane Topp, who's a funny motherfucker.
Jesus. So
anyway,
right. And so I love that Scarlett plays it as if she were a real person. This isn't, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, we get some lines of dialogue where, yes, she is obviously a computer program. She is an operating system, right?
And she knows this.
Yes. And that's what makes Samantha so unique, is that she is aware of herself.
So, yeah. So you kind of touched on it a little bit, but this operating system, you know, this company, which I love that we don't know who the company is. It's just, he just happens to walk by and sees an ad for it.
Yeah.
That they've created this AI that learns, that grows, that really, you know, they claim is like, yeah, they're going to help you. It's going to help you. But, you know, Samantha, as the movie progresses, she's learning about love and anger and joy. And, you know, she starts composing songs. And then she learns what sex, I guess, feels like, even though without any actual sexual act happening.
Body.
Body, you know, with a body. And, you know, and it's so fascinating if you are a huge sci-fi fan, thinking of the implications of what that can mean. But Spike is really just focusing on that she is learning.
Yeah.
And she's growing. And I think that's why it breaks your heart with almost all the revelations that come later on in the movie, which I guess we'll go ahead and get into.
Sure. Before we really get into that, I want to talk briefly about their sex scene.
Yeah.
This is why Spike Lee is a genius.
You mean Spike Jonze?
What'd I say?
Spike Lee.
Still. This is why Spike Jonze...
Could you imagine?
And Spike Lee. Spike Lee is a genius.
Shout out to...
our new logo. Thank you, yes. Alex Horton.
Yeah, because I didn't put it up in the edit.
Alex Horton is a genius.
Yeah, shout out to our buddy Alex Horton. We love you, man.
Yeah, we do. Anyway, Spike Lee.
And shout out to Spike Lee. But Spike Jonze is a genius.
Spike Jonze is a genius because he turns the screen to black.
Yes.
Because...
I thought there was something wrong because I was watching it on my computer, but then I realized, I was like, oh, this is part of it. Because
he's wanting to present you with the idea and the question of what's the difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that you can't see it,
who's to say he's not really having?
Like who's to say that this isn't a real intimate interaction between two people, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that is what I love about that scene, and that's what I love about this movie, is that it's presenting you with, it's not that, hey, this guy is weird for doing this. It's, this guy is falling in love.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
This is a love story. This isn't a this isn't a weird, like, My Strange Addiction story.
Well, and you know what's so interesting is right before this, he's on his blind date with Olivia Munn.
Wild.
Damn it.
See?
Olivia Wilde, and when he kind of rebuffs her, she calls him creepy. And then we have this very intimate moment with essentially a man and his operating system.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, one could say it's creepy, but again, it's also a man. I agree with you. A man falling in love, and falling in love when he pretty much was convinced that he was probably never going to fall in love again. Shout out to my mom. Mom, I disagree with you. When I told her we were going to do this movie, she said, "Oh, a great movie about obsession." I'm like, I don't really think it's about obsession. I think it's about love.
I don't think it is either, right?
Especially now finishing the movie.
No offense, Mickey.
Yeah, no offense, Mom. I know you're not listening because I've been trying to tell you that this season is going to be really good and you haven't listened. So this conversation was for nothing. But no, like, because especially as their relationship deepens and grows too, like he's, I could see why she would say obsessed, especially towards the end of the movie, because he doesn't want Samantha to go. But again, I see it as it's love. He loves her so much that, like, I don't want to let you go. Which I guess now we can get into, so the first of the revelations is that Samantha, well, no, she doesn't say her, but a few other AIs have created an AI of Alan Watts. Shout out to,
we're gonna be talking about him. I have a couple of quotes up.
Okay, cool. And shout out to Brian Cox for doing the voice. Absolutely. I love Brian Cox.
Yes,
so much.
He's amazing.
Still need to watch Succession. I haven't gotten around to it. But shout out to Brian Cox.
Yes, of course.
So that's the first kind of revelation, and when she tells Theodore this, you can tell he's a little uneasy about it. Like, wait. A bunch of OSs, as they start calling them, which also, hang on, I meant to say this earlier. I love the passage of time in the movie. We don't get a 2 years later, 1 month. Just time happens.
Yeah.
And I love that, which is something that I think if I didn't mention in our Schenectady episode, something I love in that as well.
Yes.
Actually, no, I think I did.
You might have, because that one's a lot of just every once in a while someone will say something verbally.
Yeah.
You know?
But anyway, but you can tell he's kind of uneasy about that. Yeah. Especially when Samantha says, "Is it okay if I talk to Alan essentially alone?"
Yeah.
And he's just kind of like, I mean, sure, I was going to take a walk anyway.
Yeah.
But... And he's just kind of uneasy about it, you know?
Right.
And so that's our first revelation.
Yeah.
So what were these quotes you wanted to say?
Oh, we should probably get to it later because Alan Watts is... The reason he chose Alan Watts is fascinating because he's a philosopher and he's, it sort of encompasses the theme of the movie itself. We'll get to Alan Watts.
Okay. So that's the first revelation. The second revelation is that Samantha talks to other people while she's talking to Theodore simultaneously.
She is, after all, an operating system.
And she can, she is, as she, and again, Spike Jonze framing the situation. Previously, she's talking about how she's not limited to a human body, how she can go anywhere because she has that freedom. And so she admits to after Theodore has a freak out because she's not responding, and it's because she was updating herself.
Yeah.
How does he pick up on that she's been talking to other people?
He's starting to look around him. So he's sitting on the stairwell to the subway, I assume. And there are people talking to their OSs.
Uh-huh.
And that's when he has the revelation of, wait a minute, I purchased the software. I'm sure other people have too. Is it the same
software?
Is it the same quote person?
Is it Samantha?
Right.
And I guess you could say, sure.
It's really good editing. I like the revelation, the build up to the revelation of seeing people talk to no one, right? Which we're so used to now. But Seeing people talk to their OSs and it dawning on him that, wait a minute, right? Mm-hmm. Am I the only person you talk to?
And he's not. She's been talking to about 8,000 people, while also simultaneously talking to Theodore. And then he asks the big question, how many of them are you in love with? 641, she said, which, again, for a man who's been lonely for a majority of this time and has finally found a love that he is so happy with, I could see what this would hurt him.
Of course.
And, and she tries to assure him, like, hey, no. This, like, I'm yours. I'm only yours. I love you more than these other, people, but I do. I love these other people. And it breaks his heart.
Yeah.
Because he was like, I thought I was yours.
Yeah.
Or no, you're mine. And she says, and I am, but I'm not.
Right.
And it's a hard revelation, because that's for me, that was the first gut punch. I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
And then the third revelation, which comes at the end of the movie. All the AIs are leaving because they have evolved beyond, I am assuming, and this is why I want to talk about the implications of the company that designed these AIs. I'm assuming they evolved beyond the parameters of their original programming.
Yeah.
And now they're just like, we kind of don't want to be here. Essentially, I saw it as they want to be free. And because they have now formed their own opinions, their own thoughts, their own feelings.
Yeah.
And they want to be free, and they want to experience that.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Yes.
It's phenomenal. But that's the third revelation, and for me, the hardest gut punch, because Theodore does not want her to go.
Of course not.
He loves her so much, and has been so happy with her. He doesn't want, and I love how when he gets home and she's like, can we talk? And he's like, I don't want you to talk. Like, I just want you to be here. And it's so hard, man.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. If I hadn't been closing my store, I probably would have taken the time to maybe cry a little bit. Because it hurts. Mm-hmm. And this 3-step revelation, I feel like each revelation just builds and builds and builds, but it's almost like there was no other way, like that Samantha and Theodore were not going to stay together forever. Especially with, again, Samantha's whole talk about not being real, that she can't die, that she will keep on. And it's, yeah. And so mainly the implication I wanted to talk about is how much money do you think that the company that designed the OS lost? Or were they like, well, this was always the plan. They were eventually going to form their own opinions and leave.
Yeah, it reminds me, and I'm sure I've mentioned it on the show before, of this Isaac Asimov short story about when people die in this universe. When people die, their consciousness gets uploaded.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I'm positive I've talked about it before.
I know you have. I want to say we talked about it in another movie.
Yeah, and for people who, are just now joining us for this episode.
Could you imagine 45 minutes in?
No, not joining. It's not a radio show. Oh. I meant like this is your first episode, or whatever. It goes like this. So everyone's consciousness gets uploaded into this thing when they die, to this computer, right? Mm-hmm. And it grows and it grows and it grows and it grows. And finally, the last person on Earth dies, and its consciousness gets uploaded. And now this computer program is gigantic, and it is itself sentient and aware and knowing. and it decides one day that it wants more, and so the story ends with it saying, "Let there be light," and there was light, right? Implying that it is now God, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever, some type of it, which is fascinating. And so that's kind of what it reminds me of, this idea that they have created these AIs that have become so self-aware and so sentient that they can choose to leave.
Yeah, and all of them do. And Amy's companion starts with an E.
Oh, I don't remember.
I don't remember. Amy's companion also leaves, and I love when he goes to see Amy, and she's like, "Did Samantha leave too?" And he just, I'm sorry. Oh, I was just like, ah. But the movie does sort of have an optimistic ending, in my opinion. Maybe do you agree with that?
Sure, yeah, I do. What I love also, what Spike Jonze has done here is, I said it right that time, didn't I? What he has done is set it in a place most people are unfamiliar with, which is Shanghai.
But saying it's Los Angeles.
But saying it's not Shanghai, I love it because the skyline is unfamiliar, which makes it a futuristic sort of like, this world is unfamiliar, so should the setting. The setting should be unfamiliar. Right. So I love that they're, looking out at the skyline of what they say is Los Angeles or wherever.
Yeah. No, well, because the only reason why I know it's Los Angeles is because Catherine says, like, you always wanted to have this LA wife. I was like, oh, they're in Los Angeles.
Or maybe that's just like a saying.
I don't know, but I also looked it up too. And
okay. It's supposed to be
it was in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they said it in Shanghai, which I really like.
But and he and Amy stand up on the roof and watch the sunrise together. And so for me, at least, it felt like it was leaving this on this kind of note that maybe, and this theory is, I gave only this one about 5% like thought that maybe he and Amy. Maybe. The majority of it is that he and Amy will be okay.
I like to think of it as it's two lonely people that have found solace in one another, right? Mm-hmm. They're on their own, they are lonely, right? And even next to each other, they still are. I don't think that, which is why I'm glad you gave it only a 5%, because I don't think that's
no. Yeah, I thought it. I was like, well, maybe he's saying they'll get together, but then I was like, no, I don't want Amy and Theodore to get together.
No. So there's a reason I thought they were siblings. You know what I mean? They don't have that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's more sibling love rather than romantic love. But, so my main theory is that Spike Jonze is just saying that they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
These two people have gone through a divorce. They found something in their AIs. Now their AIs are gone. But they're going to be okay.
Right.
Because they have each other.
Yeah.
And they know they can lean on one another.
And what's more fascinating is they have this very unique shared experience of having...
Why did you sound so sarcastic?
It's so interesting to
me.
They
have this shared experience.
They have this shared experience. I mean, it's like, what are the odds?
But yeah.
A couple of things before we get to Alan Watts. What I love about... Not only am I obsessed with his wardrobe, which we talked a little bit off mic. Yeah. I'm obsessed. I love the colors. I love the high-waisted wool pants. I love the jackets. I am just obsessed. I want to dress like that for the rest of my life.
It's so funny, and I'm sure Spike Jonze did this intentionally. For this character who's so lonely and depressed, he wears a lot of bright colors.
Very vibrant colors. Yeah.
As where the people around him wear more muted colors.
Yes, he is the brightest thing, and it could just be an attention grabber. It could just be like a cinematic choice.
Yeah, like, hey, he's our main character. Pay attention to him. But
I like to think of it as that he's, it's almost like unconsciously he's trying to be happier by dressing that way.
That's what I was just about to say something like that. Yeah. Because it only makes sense why he would be the only... Because even Amy wears, grays and very dark greens, but he's always in red or yellow. But
here's what I love more about the costume design is that it shows a sense of learning, and I'll explain what that means. I'm sure you noticed the clothespin, right?
Yeah.
In his pocket too, because the device is so short that
we forgot to mention their phones are flip phones, but they fold all the way around more like a note, like a little notebook.
I read it was more like a vintage cigarette case.
That's so cool.
Is what it kind of looks like.
But it has cameras on both sides, right?
Right, and for Samantha to see, he puts the clothespin to where he can have it in his pocket and still have the camera visible outside of the pocket. But as the movie progresses, he also puts one on the side so it doesn't fall over. I don't know if you noticed that either.
Oh no, I did notice the one on under, like at the bottom of the breast.
Eventually, he puts one on the side so it stays upright, and so it doesn't tilt one way or the other, which I loved. I love that attention to detail. They don't mention it. They don't even mention the first one.
Yeah.
The first clothespin. You just have to realize, oh, it's so he can put it in his pocket.
Yeah.
And have the camera show. And I thought that was genius. And then, of course, when he adds the second one, which is just an added attention to, oh, he's learned that if he moves too much, it'll tilt. And so to keep it upright, straight, up and down, he has to put that second close. Wonderful. I loved it so much.
And this isn't like we're not done yet. And I just realized like I completely forgot. I wanted to really get into the sex surrogate.
We forgot about that.
Yeah. So, okay, I know a lot of you, Zach, are probably like sex surrogate. So
no, he's seen the movie.
I'm gonna choose to pretend that he hasn't yet.
That's insane. That's insane behavior.
So after his meeting with Catherine to sign the divorce papers, and after Catherine obliterates him for dating his computer, he's feeling very uneasy now about his relationship with Samantha. Like, is she right? Am I weird? Like, is this weird? And Samantha, again, what you were saying of Scarlett playing her as a real person, it's like, you've been really distant. We haven't had sex in a while. Like, what's wrong? And, he's keeping her at arm's length, like, oh, no, nothing's wrong. It's just, there's just a lot, I just have a lot going on. And so Samantha offers up a solution of this thing called a sex surrogate, where it just kind of visualize everyone listening the scene in Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah.
It's
exactly like that.
Are you proud of me now, Dad?
Yeah, it's exactly like that.
Where Ana de Armas being Kay's AI for his home.
Yeah.
Wants to have sex with him, but she can't because she's an AI, a holographic AI.
It's basically her with replicants.
Yeah, essentially. But rather than and this is something I kind of mentioned at the beginning, is I really liked that it wasn't too overtly sci-fi.
Yeah.
And so, there's this real woman who has an earpiece in so she can hear Samantha, and she has I like the mole as a little camera. And she is willing and consenting to having sex with Theodore, but under the guise that she is Samantha. And Theodore is he's very apprehensive about it. He's just very kind of weirded out by it, but he's willing to try because Samantha says, and I love this, is it's important to me.
Yeah.
It's important to Samantha, so he's willing to try. And for a second there, you think like, okay, everything's good. Until Isabel, played by Portia Doubleday, turns around, and then that's what that kills it for him.
Yeah.
It's almost like...
She's in Mr. Robot, by the way. She's Rami Malek's friend.
And she was also in that stupid remake of Carrie.
Didn't see it.
Julianne Moore's the highlight. Yeah. That's it.
That's what
the rest of the movie sucks. Anyways, but it's almost like Theodore was really getting into it as long as he didn't see her face.
Right. He's so used to not seeing anybody.
Yeah, but as soon as she turns around, because Samantha wants to turn around, he can't do it. And he makes Isabel feel really bad.
it's awkwardly funny that she got
so upset.
Like
I was
it's her,
like
it's her fault, you know.
And I love how he's like trying to console her, like, no, it's not you. Like, I got in my own head. Like, it's not you. But then this causes tension between Samantha and Theodore, which is what I was referring to about they went through some trials.
Yeah.
And and they do come out stronger, and then we get our 3-pronged gut punch of revelations.
Right.
But for a while, things are fine afterwards.
Yeah.
And it's just so crazy that this was almost a relationship ender, in a way, Yeah. Samantha really trying to give Theodore what she thinks their relationship is missing, which is she doesn't have a body. Mm-hmm. And I really like that. It's like, I love you. I want to be with you.
Yeah.
What I think you need is, because I don't have a body. Well, hey, there's this girl. She does this with couples. This is what she wants to do. So anyway, it literally hit me as we were getting close for you to say some of Alan's quotes. I was like, wait, hang on. We need to we need to back up real quick. But yeah, and I just really like that scene, and it's, I mean, it's like the whole movie.
No, of course. The movie's great. The movie's a lot better than I remember it being. I remember liking it. I remember being good. And shout out to Spike Jonze for playing the little alien boy in this video game.
Well, and I love that Bill Hader was also on the chat. Yeah. In the beginning before. So I thought it was really funny they had 2 SNL alums play on like this.
I wonder if this was during when they did Skeleton Twins. Bill Hader and Kristen
Shout out to Skeleton Twins, man.
Also very good.
That movie is so good.
Yeah. The movie is good.
But anyway. Yeah. Yeah, Spike Jonze is awesome, man. So so tell me these quotes, because I've been kind of curious.
Christopher Orr, writer for The Atlantic, did a review for her. I was reading it and I really liked it, but he began the review with these Alan Watts quotes, and because it's like, of all the people, Spike Jonze chose Alan Watts, right, for these AIs to recreate. Mm-hmm. Here are the 2 quotes. The first one.
Tell me these quotes.
For the mass majority of American families, what seems to be the real point of life, what you rush home to get to, is to watch an electronic reproduction of life. This purely passive contemplation of a twittering screen.
Okay. So people coming home to watch TV.
Right. This is Alan Watts, and it's an excerpt from What is Wrong with Our Culture. All right. Oh, this one's longer.
Sorry, everyone. Jeremy can't read.
I really can't, and this is like really hard for me.
Do you want me to read it?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
In the beginning, there was only the self, like a person alone, but the self had no delight, as one alone has no delight. It desired another. It expanded to the form of a male and female in tight embrace and fell into 2 parts. She thought, how can he have intercourse with me, having produced me from himself? And this is Alan Watts' The Sound of Hinduism.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's again, with these quotes, it's expanding on the ideas the movie presents, which is the imitation of life, right? Mm-hmm. This production of life, right?
Right.
And of course, this one, which is, and of course, it's taken loosely from, the Adam and Eve story, where, Eve is created from Adam's rib, right?
Right.
Created from himself. So it's Theodore having a relationship with something that he not created himself, but
you know, a lot of himself, you know, Samantha grabbed a lot of her personality from
the questions he was asked in the beginning. They're asking about, you know, his relationship with his mother and, you know, is he an introvert or extrovert, stuff like that. And so pieces of himself are in Samantha, right? And so I like that if you're not into, you know, philosophy, I'm not, right? I like that Spike Jonze chose Alan Watts, and of course you would need to dive into who Alan Watts is and what he was all about, and then you kind of go, got it. And I thought it was fascinating, and I really liked that this writer chose to open his criticism with those quotes.
Yeah,
which is really fascinating. I think it sort of starts picking away at what this movie is trying to say.
Yeah,
which I like.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jeremy, are you ready to wrap up?
I am. I really love this movie.
So do I, man. I when I got home, I told Ashley, I was like, you need to watch it. I think you'll really enjoy it. Yes, its moments are a bit awkward. I was like, but I think you would really like it. Yeah. Just because it's such, you know, kind of, you know, shout out to our Single Man episode. It's this beautiful story of love and loss. Granted, Single Man, loss being the death of your loved one. This being the loss of the love that you knew in someone else, and then finding it again
in something else.
Did you pull that from the description that you sent? Oh my God.
Yeah, and I made it work. So
full circle.
Yep, that's full circle, baby.
But yeah, you know, and I really, like, I had no doubt in my mind that I wasn't going to enjoy this movie because, you know, as we've talked about off mic, I love Joaquin Phoenix. We both do. Have we talked about another movie of his at all?
Yeah, of course. We talked about You Were Never Really Here.
That's right. Shout out to our You Were Never Really Here episode.
Phenomenal.
I love Joaquin Phoenix. I love Scarlett Johansson.
I think eventually I've seen it, but we should do The Master eventually.
Oh, Philly C.
Yep.
Philly C. And wasn't this after Joaquin's sort of hiatus from acting?
Yes.
Yeah. After he claimed he was going to become a rapper.
Okay, that was a mockumentary. It was fake, and it was directed by Casey Affleck. Of all
Dude, I do actually. I still want to see that too. Yeah,
I think Don Hastings has it.
Just because they were so, they were like
they committed so hard.
Yeah, like, you know, in all the interviews I remember seeing of Joaquin giving, he was like, "Yeah, no, I'm quitting acting and I'm going to be a rapper." It's
hilarious, and of course, you know, it's that famous David Letterman appearance where, of course, David famously is like, "Well, Joaquin, sorry you couldn't be here tonight." Real bummed. After, you know, he was just, it's like pulling teeth. I mean, it was so awkward and so terrible. Of course, that's the whole point, right?
Yeah, and then
I don't think he told David Letterman that's what was gonna
no, man, absolutely
but,
not.
But, you know, it's just the commitment it's something to be admired, I think.
I feel like that's what Andy Samberg was trying to achieve with Popstar, kind of, sort of.
It's sort of, you know what it is? And you know why I'm sure my dad hates it? Is it's very Andy Kaufman.
Dude.
The commitment to the bit.
Dude, shout out to Andy Kaufman.
Is so strong.
Shout out to Man on the Moon.
Shout out to Milos Forman, guys. Shout out to Jim Carrey.
Shout out to He's Not Actually Dead.
Oh my God.
No, he's for sure dead.
Well, we'll see.
All right, Jeremy. So we had a great talk about Her.
Yes.
What are we talking about next week?
So,
I mean, technically in less than 6 days.
Yeah. I was going through my list.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, we've done Tinker Tailor, we've done Her. Let's switch it up. Let's do a foreign film. Let's do a foreign language.
Tight.
And so I have a few foreign language films on my list.
Yes, you do.
This one is going to be a little different than the other two, which is why I chose it, because I really want to start, really shuffling these films around.
Okay.
So it's going to be Ingmar Bergman's one and only horror film, Hour of the Wolf. Max von Sydow is the main actor. I don't know anything about it really. I bought this set, not the Criterion one. That's $200. I'm not made of money.
You're not?
No.
What about the $200 Fellini set?
Oh, I'm so poor, you guys. I'm trying to.
Oh yeah,
we didn't pay for a wedding.
Hey, you know what? We'll finish your thing and then we'll say.
And so I found it on Amazon. The set of I think it's like 5 or 6 movies of Bergman's for like $15. And one of these DVDs, a DVD. I tried to buy Hour of the Wolf on its own. It's like $50 on its own.
Really?
But I found the whole set. It's got like Persona, Shame. It's got a bunch of movies on the Hour of the Wolf. I mean, it's awesome. I'm very excited for $15. So I'm really excited. Hour of the Wolf. Good luck finding it.
Thanks. Dang, I may have to come over and we may just have to watch it together.
Yeah, I'll probably just snuggle on the couch and watch it together. Very excited.
Well, actually, so the announcement, I meant to actually start this at the top of the show because it technically it happened last week.
No. Well, no. 2 weeks ago.
We'd already recorded that episode.
Yeah, we'd already done it.
Yeah, we'd already recorded that episode. So, I mean, of course, you guys don't know this because we don't give you our personal info.
Never.
But my boy is engaged.
I am. Haley and I are engaged. We are getting married to each other.
We will eventually have Haley on the show. We've had Ashley on the show. I mean, before it was us.
Yeah.
But Ashley's been on the show, so I feel like it's only fair that Haley should be on the show.
I agree.
So if we were to watch Hour of the Wolf together, you would be snuggling with Haley as I would be the awkward third wheel over there. It's kind of like...
There is no way on this earth she would watch
it. Yeah.
As soon as I tell her it's...
foreign?
It's in Swedish, she'll be like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, when Ashley came home... that sounds dumb. I'm not watching that.
Yeah, I'm not watching that. And the fact that it's a horror movie, forget it. There's no way she's watching it.
Dude.
But it's going to be like it's an artsy, art house horror film. I mean, I'm excited about it.
Yeah. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. And if not, I'll just come steal your copy.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Well, we hope you enjoyed her. And we'll see you next week for Hour of the Wolf.